All right, so the file I'm going to use is this Mila file. I think we end up last class creating a set of walls derived from conceptual masses. Actually, I don't think it's this one. I think this is the Google Drive. Yeah, it's this one. We created a mass. If you remember, Mila House is a small residential area. We created a mass object using conceptual mass in place, and then we had a playground on the side of the house. I cleaned it up for us, and then we click the faces of the exterior sides of this mass and convert it to a wall. And what I'm going to show you today is how to create custom walls, the logic behind the interior properties of partitions, how you can create new walls from scratch, and swap type partitions, edit partitions, and basically we're going to, using the image in the background, we're going to create the interior partition of this home, including, the interior partitions around the restrooms, and then we're going to create the floors. All right, everyone has the data set? If anyone has trouble, let me know. Okay. All right, so quick review of walls, something we talked last time. When we place a wall, remember when we pick a family from the type selector. Oh, I need to start my typing thing. Yeah, so we pick a family using the type selector, and in this drop-down list, you have all the different family types that you can use inside the project. Remember, a wall is a system family, and what that means that you cannot save it as an external file. You can define it and create it within the context of a project, and you can copy paste it between projects. Now, on the properties of the partitions, we create a wall using the 2-point method by the most of the time, but we can also create walls using pick line tools or face, or pick an existing face. This is how we create rectangular face, arc-shaped walls, circular walls, elliptical walls. These are different methods of drawing partitions. And then the other things that are important to recognize is the location line of a wall is the vertical plane that anchors the wall to the ground. The location line, it's an instance property. Instance properties are unique to an object. And these grips at the end of the wall indicate what the location line is. This double arrow here. So quick question, Jess, what does this mean?
Sorry, can you repeat that, Cesar?
This double arrow on the screen.
Oh, that is marking the exterior side of the wall.
That is correct. And if we click on this, we flip the partition relative to the location plane. Another thing to...
Cesar, question, sorry. I'm looking on mine and I don't see that double arrow come up.
You have to select the partition?
Oh, okay, okay.
Yep. The other thing in the instance properties, it's this concept of the base constraint and the top constraint. Base constraint establish a relationship between the base of the wall and a level, and the top constraint establish a relationship, a constraint from the top of the wall to a level. We have negative and positive offsets from the base in addition to that constraint, for example, to account for parapet or for a standard offset at the bottom of the walls. And then Revit reports the total height of a wall in here. Now, the other part that's really important about walls is the mark value. And this is how we tag walls in a floor plan. This is connected directly to our company standard system of partition classifications. And that is a type property. That's basic Revit 101. Type properties is a property that's common across all the elements of the same type. And if you change a type property, you change it for all the partitions. And so when we are in the process of tagging walls in a floor plan on a construction plan, it's necessary to include, to make sure that the type properties reflect a mark parameter. And so there is a parameter here called type mark, and you would add a code here based on your standards. I mean, it could be partition 0, 1, V2. There's a system of classification that's beyond this class on what that represents. But this is the type, this is information that can be reported by a tag. And the way to tag a wall is to go into the annotate tab, and then there is a tool that's called tag by category. Annotate tab, tag by category, and you click a wall, and notice that the information that I added inside the type property is now reported inside this tag. And this tag is common across all the elements of the same type. So again, under annotate tag category, I can tag the same partition in different points, and it will report that information.
So a quick question. I just tried that annotate by tag out, and my tag shows up, but it's got a question mark in it and not any kind of code like yours does. Is that normal?
No, and what happens is that I did type this value earlier. So
Okay.
to add it, select a wall, and then access edit type, and scroll down and find the type mark. And I just typed this 01 B2, but this could be a different system. Some companies have it shorter, like partition type A1, for example. And because this is a type property, as soon as I change it as a type property, it's going to change it all across. So I'm going to hit OK here, and notice how the tags update all across. That is the concept of a type parameter. So this is in the test on Wednesday.
Thank you.
All right, the tags don't need to be the square and diagonal. In fact, I don't think I like it this way. Tags can be customized. You open the family, edit the lines, whether you want it to be ovals or squares or nothing at all. You decide the way you do your standards again. You can move a tag by selecting it and clicking this plus sign that is below here. And this will move the relative location in both the X and the Y direction. And then this little grip here allow you to create a arm and an elbow. I don't think it's necessary, but sometimes when we're working with BC floor plans, there's a need sometimes to do this to allow for other annotations not to be interfered. Okay, so last time we created these walls that were generic 4 inches. And so in the family 3 of your project browser under the wall category.
Cesar, sorry, can I interrupt you and ask another question?
Of course, yes.
Maybe
yes.
I'm just like behind here, but I'm trying to select the wall. And when I click on it, instead of getting it selected in the blue like you have it there, what comes up is dimension lines. And I don't know how to get rid of
Do
that.
you see this?
Yeah, basic wall for generic brick.
So you may be, are you in level 1 or in the ground level? Floor
I'm
plan
in
level?
level 1.
So when you select this, you see dimension, like blue dimensions line. I mean, I see some here.
But it doesn't like select this blue like it does on yours. Like that blue selection of the wall. Oh wait, did it just no, it didn't do it.
But when you select it, does it display instance properties?
I got it. Yes, now it worked. I just needed to talk to you. Thank you.
Okay, no problem.
A question, sorry, Cesar. My Revit was really slow. It opened and now it's all in Spanish again.
I
I don't know.
remember we worked this.
Yeah, I know, but I forgot to write it down, so I have no idea. I forgot. I can just continue in the class in Spanish and then I'll ask you.
Yeah, I need to find the path. Let me see if I can find it quickly. Start Revit. This, I'm going to put this link on your end in the chat panel, Cesar. And then you just follow through this.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, so there are different firms choose to do wall partitions differently. Some of them, I've seen offices where they decide to do a schedule of walls, and the wall actually contain type parameters such as some description, assembly code, fire rating, area, and other just cover everything inside a tag in a construction plan. And again, you choose the method in which you want to represent your walls in your documentation. So under the project browser, under the families, and then under walls, these are all the families that came preloaded with the template. And what that means is that we didn't create them. These were given to us by the architectural template that I used to get this project started. And so one of the first things in your organization, or when an organization is in the process of creating or transitioning into Revit, is to make sure that your wall families are already pre-built, preloaded with the appropriate information, the metadata, so that they schedule, display, print, and report tags correctly. And these out-of-the-box families are very, very basic. They lack any useful information because it's hard to prescribe this thing as an industry. And I think I told you that in what organizations typically do, that they create this reference project where all the families are organized, and all the user needs to do is to open this file, grab the partition that's going to need, and then paste it into the project, and they're going to be listed as available types in the modeling process. Now, how we create a new partition from scratch. So I think I walked you through this in other contexts, but I'm going to repeat this because the steps are the same. Create new types. Step number 1, select a family, select the partition. This is your base partition. So if you want to create something that's similar to something, select it. Step number 2, access type properties. That means click the button that says edit type. Step number 3, duplicate type. We always duplicate the type. We don't want to make changes on existing types because they may be in use in other parts of the project. And inadvertently, you will be changing anything from a couple of partitions to dozens or hundreds of partitions. So we always duplicate the type. And then the last step is change or rename and change parameter values. Parameter values. So this little recipe is used to duplicate any type of family, anything that you see in the project browser under the family tree. You can create new types using this recipe. Select a partition, access the type properties, duplicate the type, rename, and change parameter values. It's this basic Revit 101 operations. All right, so I'm going to zoom in and notice that this wall, or the wall that is in the image, it's doesn't match it doesn't have the appropriate thickness of as it needs to be. And so when I measure, and you can use the measure tool using the upper left tool, it has like a little ruler. When you measure the size of this partition, it is about 8 inches. So I need an exterior partition that's about 8 inches. And then I need to start thinking, what is the internal configuration of, like, if you look at this partitioning section, it's probably going to have a 6-inch wood stud, then 5/8 or half an inch plywood on the interior, half a inch plywood in the exterior, and then a veneer and exterior siding. And so so what we're going to do, we're going to create a new partition from scratch. And using that recipe that I show you first. Step number 1, select one of the partitions. Step number 2, access the type properties. So you click edit type. Step number 3, duplicate. So in the type properties, right in the upper right side, there's a duplicate tool. And why we duplicate? Because we don't want to override existing instances of the partition in the project. So we duplicate it, then we give it a name. The name needs to be descriptive. And I'm just gonna call it exterior wood wall. All right, and then hit OK. The name is something in actual practice is something that is standardized. How you name partitions is a technical decision. I'm going very generic in this example. So click OK here. I have a new type. And if you notice under the list of walls, I already have a new type called exterior wood wall that I can start edit the internal properties, which is the last step in the recipe. So everybody with me here? Select a wall, edit types, duplicate, give it a name exterior wood wall. And then the last step is to edit the internal configuration of a wall. So to do that, under the structure cell, hit the edit panel. Okay, this is the edit assembly dialog box. And this display a system of layers, stack layers of the internal configuration of a wall. To graphically understand how this works, you may choose to display the preview button in the lower left side of the dialog box. And this is going to display a section of the wall. So the layer configuration of these partitions go from the exterior side to the interior side. So we are picking the layers, minding whether that is an exterior and interior side. And that is the same thing in this preview. This is the exterior side of the wall, and this is the interior side of the wall. And so we use this insert button to add new layers. The core, row number 1 and row number 3 are not materials, but they are just visual delimiters or visual references that indicates to the user that the layers in between are structural. So that's the core. You can have multiple layers inside the core. Think of, I don't know, like a double wall in a bathroom partition, or a composite wall that has both steel and concrete. It has 2 cores, and then you can add those layers in between. All right, so we're going to start changing this. The core of this wall, it's 6 inches wood material. So we're going to change this from brick to wood. And so when you hit, and by the way, when you are in the middle of this dialog box, don't hit OK or don't hit cancel, because if I cancel, you're going to start over again. And that happens a lot. Or if you click escape is the equivalent of canceling, and you're going to start over again. And creating these partitions is, I mean, it's easy when you know it, but when you're a first user, it takes some time to get used to. So don't hit cancel, don't hit escape while we do this. All right, so right in this cell where it says material, there is an icon that has like 3 little dots. This is going to launch the material library. And I haven't talked much about materials, but we're going to do now. When you launch the material library, it opens a browser of all the materials provided by the template. Different templates have different materials. And here, again, there is a need by the organization to build inside the template the most frequently used materials. So a material in Revit, it's very important because it provides a specification information about an assembly that can be scheduled and tagged. It provides the graphical representation of the material in projection elevation or in cut elevation. It provides information on how the material is going to render under a rendering tool. And it both provides physical and thermal properties of the material that can be utilized for advanced thermodynamic analysis. And so the browser has this browser panel that you can scroll up and down. It also has this little filter in the upper left that allow you to display a subset of materials based on their type. So you have carpet, concrete, gas, glass, miscellaneous paint, etc. Notice that this will be, when you have hundreds of materials, it's good to use this filter to just arrive to a specific type. In this case, let's go with the wood. And notice that these are all my woods, all the woods available in this project. And there is and then let's look at another filter. Let's look at the metal, for example. These are aluminums, your stainless steels, structure. And if you want to display them all, just hit the all again. Now what I'm looking for is for studs. So you can also search in the search panel for a keyword. And notice that if I was doing like a metal stud, I could use this metal stud layer. Or you can just say just wood. And in this case, let's say that this is going to be softwood lumber for the core of the wall. So pick softwood lumber from this list. You can, again, I just type wood here and I selected softwood lumber and then hit OK. This changed the color, this changed the appearance in projection and in cut. It also changed these two values that are good for analysis, the R value and the thermal mass value, which is relevant for Title 24. Okay, so I assigned a layer. I'm going to change also the thickness, and the thickness, just make it 6 inches. You can just type 0 space 6, 0 feet, 6 inches. And this is my core. So row number 1 and row number 3 are just telling me that the softwood lumber is the core. Now we're going to add more layers in the interior side and then more layers in the exterior side. On the interior side, we're going to have a ½ inch plywood. So select row number 3 and hit the insert button. And to select it, just hit the number 3 here. Now, Revit likes to add rows above the selected one. So this is not the right location of this layer. I'm going to use the up and down button to relocate this row relative to the selection. So I'm going to hit down button and move it outside of the core. So this is a plywood layer, ½ inch. So in the thickness, you can just type 0.5 inches or just 1/2 inch. Enter. Notice that there's a new layer here that has just a generic category. I'm going to change the material and make the material plywood. So again, click on the cell, click on this icon that has like 3 little buttons. This opens the material browser. And in the search cell at the top, just search for plywood. Plywood. And there is plywood sheeting. I'm going to select that. And then hit OK. The color change and all the thermal acoustical properties also change. Now, the function is another important aspect of a partition. The function, and this is on the test, this function has a number, and this number in brackets is called the priority number. And the priority number is used by Revit to make logical assumptions on how the different layers are going to connect in a corner condition. So to explain that, I'm going to jump into my PowerPoint. A second. Okay, so on the right side, and this is a compound wall. Compound walls are made of different type of materials. We all familiar that we all are architects, so we understand that sometimes exterior partitions come with a challenge on how to not only physically construct these elements, but also prepare them for appropriate waterproofing and support with the structural elements. And here on the right side, we have 2 dissimilar partition types. These are 2 different wall types and displaying the internal properties. And the keynotes that you see here, it's reporting both the material and the priority number. And so the priority number, it's Revit way to allow for educated connection in corner conditions. So this is a T intersection, and notice that the brick space of one partition, which is priority 5, connects very clean in a corner condition with the brick priority 5 of another partition. Notice that these 2 partitions has an airspace, which is good for thermal properties. The airspace of this partition connect very cleanly with the airspace of another partition, and that is thermal property priority number 3. Notice that this partition here does not have insulation. There's not a, and because there's no material called insulation, this material priority 3 stops right here. It just cut it there. The core of these 2 partitions, this is metal stud and this is CMU. They both share the same priority number, but they have dissimilar materials. And when they connect in a corner condition, they only abut, but they do not merge. And so that is the purpose of the priority number. It's one way of telling Revit to make good educated guess on how walls connect. So that is on the test next Wednesday. So it's important to define the appropriate function and priority number.
Quick question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly. So the priority numbers that you assign to each of the different materials, let Revit know how those materials interact with each other in the wall space,
In the corner conditions
in the corner conditions.
or in intersections. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Question, Cesar, can you change the numbers? Like if one is a 3, but then you want to make that a 4?
Yes. For example, this is the plywood, and this is diaphragm that is just providing a finish. And so these row number 4 here, if you just click on it, these are all the priority numbers available. And you have from 1 to 5. I'm going to choose finish number 1 in this list. Finish number 1 has priority number 4. And in fact, you don't want to keep them. You need to understand the function and priority number. They work along together. And it's important that we assign the appropriate function when we're building this layer system. That makes sense? All right, so this is, I completed two rows. This is row number 4, and this is row number 2. And this is the interior, and this is the exterior. So let's add the exterior layer. I have a 1/2 inch plywood sheeting, and then on top of that plywood, we have siding, exterior siding. All right, let's click row number 1. And let's add a new layer, insert. And then you go into, this is going to be also finish 4, no, finish 5. No, this is a substrate. It's a substrate for another layer. It's a substrate for the finish layer. So priority number 2, and then under the material, open the material browser in the search cell in the upper left side, search for plywood again. Oh. Plywood sheeting, hit OK. And the thickness is 1/2 inch. For those landscape people who are online, you might not create partitions very often, but if you're doing like, I don't know, exterior wall or pony walls, and they are made of dissimilar materials like concrete on one side and I don't know, other type of veneer in the other side, this would be the way to create them. Okay, so again, substrate, plywood sheeting, 1/2 inch. Hit just hit anywhere in any other row to see the preview. So this is the substrate that I just finished creating. All right, and now we're going to add on the exterior wood siding. So select row number 1 and click the insert button. And this is going to be the exterior finish. So I'm going to call this finish 1. The siding, let's say, is going to be 3/4 inch. And the material, if you type wood again on the search cell, There is a material called wood siding. And we're going to assign that to the, no, there says wood planks, wood planks. And see the properties of the material here. This is called wood planks. This is the color is going to render, but it says use render appearance. In an exterior elevation, it has vertical planks, a space every 6 inches. It doesn't have any cut pattern, but I could add like a wood grain if we want the wood to display with a wood pattern when we do details. So I'll pick wood planks, hit OK. And there you go. I think my partition is now completed. The total thickness of this partition, you can look at right here. This is the aggregate sum of this column. The total thickness is 734. And because we are actually working with the real thickness of the components, these partitions are perfect. Like they are the way they need to be built, and your dimensions are going to be accurate as well. And then the R value here is the aggregate R value of all the different materials altogether. Okay, another thing before hitting OK button here is you can swap the view from a floor plan to a section. So if you switch this to section here, in this drop-down view, you have a sample height of 20 feet of that partition. That is this sample height that you see here is the sample height of this preview. That's 20 feet. Has nothing to do with the wall that's going to get built. This is strictly for the preview of here. And then in this preview mode, you can zoom in and zoom out using the mouse wheel. And the reason is that there are ways in which you can extend or unlock some of these layers and give them additional extensions. For example, if I want the exterior siding to extend 4 inches below the core, you can do that. But we're going to do that in a little bit. All right, so this is the assembly. We hit OK. Here is the before we hit OK here, or if you already hit OK, go back. This is the new partition. But let's go back and do something else. Select the partition, edit the type. In the type properties of this new partition, there is a new parameter. There's a parameter called core scale fill color. Coarse scale fill color. And this is directly related with this tool, which is the detail level. There are 3 detail levels. Remember, fine, medium, and coarse. And so when the view is displayed in coarse, you can add a poché to the wall. And if we want this poché to be dark black, then this is the place to put it. When the detail level is displaying fine level, it's going to display all the layers with the texture and the color as derived by the material in the structure assembly dialog box. All right, so when the view is in coarse, I want this to display a solid black. So I'm going to change the core scale fill from diagonal up to solid. And so you just scroll down or scroll up and find the solid fill. And it could be black. You can do it gray if that's what you want. but gray is more like existing to remain, and black looks nice in course. So I change this here and hit OK. And now what happens is that when I change the detail level to coarse, now this looks solid black. And this is useful for like presentation plans, or if you're preparing your model for a magazine or to a presentation to a client, you can turn this in black. Or if you leave this in fine, then it will display all the interior layers inside. Any question here? You all with me? Were you able to create the partition?
I have a question, sorry. All of my line weights are really heavy. Is there a way to do like a global change of that? They don't look light and thin like yours does.
Good question. So in the upper bar, in the upper quick access bar,
yeah.
there's a tool that is called thin line.
Yeah.
But to your point,
I got it. Yeah, that's cool.
But to the point, when this is disabled, this is the
Yeah.
way in which Revit is going to print.
Yeah.
And
That's
sometimes for this particular scale, that line weight is supposed to work well. But if you just want these walls to be represented like two lines, then make the view coarse and disable that. Disable the coarse property, like I'm going to say here, no pattern. This is a partition represented as two lines without the interior assemblies. What I'm going to do, because I want it to be black. So for a 1/4 of an inch, 1/8 of an inch floor plans, you may want to display the walls in coarse. But when you're doing wall sections and you're doing enlarged details, then you may want to see all the details, everything in fine.
Can you repeat the command you do to get it to see black on the view plan view?
Yeah, select the partition,
Select the wall, yeah.
edit the type properties.
Yeah.
And where it says coarse scale fill
Got
graphic,
it. Right.
changes to solid fill.
Okay, I have that.
And then the color black.
Cesar,
No, mine's not going black.
Oh, make sure you change this to coarse. The
What I did. Oh,
the detail level needs to be set in coarse so that
oh, and the view, I see.
in the view, yeah.
How do you get that little? Oh, I see that. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just had a quick question. So I filled those parameters based off of what you said. The fill color is black on a solid fill, but when I'm at the course, it doesn't show up black. It shows up gray on my screen.
So you switch this to coarse and this is going gray. Are you in the middle of another command? Make sure you hit escape.
Yeah, I'm not in another command.
Can you check also that the wall is on new construction and it has no demolish? You know what it is? I know what it is. You're probably seeing an overlay of the mass model.
Oh.
So you just go to visibility graphic and disable the mass category. Put it here. So under here, go to mass and disable it.
I'm sorry, how did you get to visibility graphics again?
B as in Victor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And disable the visibility of the mask, because the mask must be on top of the Okay. Another thing is that this partition is new and it doesn't have a mark value. So we need to pick one so that we can schedule it or label it in a floor plan. So select the partition. So Siobhan, did that work?
Yeah, it's fixed. Thank you.
Okay. So select the wall, edit the type properties, and then scroll down. And we're going to assume that the type mark for this wall is okay. Looks like I'm frozen. I froze for a second, but it looked like I was able to complete it. So I'm going to repeat. You select the partition, edit the type. And then in the type properties, look for the type mark value and change it to M1. And that's going to update the information reported by the label. All right, so we have now a wall and we want the rest of the wall to follow through. So you can pick each of them and swap it with the new partition. This is swapping parameter types. So you can only swipe things from one type to another that belongs to the same category. I cannot swap a wall with a furniture or with a plumbing fixture because they belong to different categories. And the partition I created was the exterior wood wall. And notice that the location line remain in place. And so this is a good strategy for exterior walls, in particular during conceptual modeling. Set good practice tip. Set your location line to the exterior line in conceptual model. And as you progress your model, then swap it with a more refined system, in particular when it's in flux. The building is going to grow to the inside and not to the exterior, where it might be overlapping some setbacks and restrictions. All right, so you can do it one by one. And here's another new tool under the Modify tab. Under the Modify tab, click Scape. On the Modify tab, there is a tool that is called Match Properties. It's this guy here. Control D. This is frequently used. Match Properties. And what it does is just grab the properties from a source and apply it to a destination, as long as the two objects belong to the same category. So for example, you can match properties of columns, two columns, make them equal, or two pieces of furniture, you can make them equal. So again, match properties. What is the things you want to inherit from? I want to inherit the properties of this wall, and I want to apply it to this wall. And then it will remain active. You don't have to pick the source yet. And you can just continue all around until all your walls are solid black. Then escape. You all with me here? You want me to repeat anything? All right. So
Cesar, I'm so sorry. Can you explain again? You want the walls to join on the outside. How does it? Where do we pick that?
Is the location line.
Location line, right?
Yeah. So let me pick this example here. When we build exterior walls, I usually leave the location line to the exterior face, so that when there is a need to swap systems, in particular when you are not sure what the system is going to look like, You can swap it with a different type. And notice how the location line remain in place, but the wall grows towards the interior. So no matter what system you apply, the wall, the location line remain in place. And so this is useful for exterior facade. It's also useful for elevators when the partition is undefined during early DD. And you say, okay, I know that the interior of the elevator shaft needs to be preserved, and whatever thickness the partition needs to be, it needs to grow to the outside. So in that case, you know, you do the interior, the face of the interior wall is the location line. And when you swap it with different configurations, then it will grow accordingly where it needs to be. Does that make sense, Isabella?
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, match properties, copy, paste. That's how it works. All right, let's look at it in 3D. Notice that, ooh, I don't know what happened here. Why does this group? Oh, you know what? In the last class, I applied extension. So when you select these walls, look, it has a base offset. I'm going to remove that. I don't know why I did that. Did you guys got this result also? And I think it's this base offset. I just need to return it to 0.
Just delete the offset. Yeah.
Yeah. Why did it shift it? This is on level 1, 0. Giving me this this thing. I mean, another thing we can do quickly is just remove it and then build it again. Architecture, wall by face, and pick the wall. And make sure that before you pick the wall, select in the drops the type selector, the exterior wood wall. Yeah, probably that's easier. If you have partitions with the wrong size, just select and delete, and then go again. I'm going to do that. I'm going to select the walls that are incorrect. Rebuilding again. So you go wall by face, and
Cesar, is it also okay if we just shift the wall down? Like,
shift the wall down, like,
yeah, like when you click on the wall, I see the up and down arrow. Yeah. And then just pull it up to the line kind of thing.
we could, I don't know if it snaps. Does this?
Yeah, it snaps.
It snaps. As long as it snaps, we can do as well. That, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Just make sure that there's no gap on the top or the bottom.
Okay.
Again, wall by face. I don't know why Revit. Give me this. Okay. So I deleted the ones that are incorrect, or like who gave me that tip? Was it you, Matthew? No, who told me? Who spoke? Was it Jess?
I don't think so. I just talked about pulling the walls up and down to
Okay.
adjust them.
All right, thanks whoever gave me that tip about pushing and pulling. All right. Notice also when you zoom in, this is the way the walls need to display. Now, when you look closely, you may notice that this 3D view, it's displaying corner conditions that might not be ideal. For example, look at this one. This looks correct in that this is the priority wall. In this corner condition, this wall takes priority over the small section one. But in this corner condition is the opposite. So we're going to fix that. And let me show you how to force corner conditions in Revit. And you do that by going into the modify tab. Select a wall, and then yeah. So in the modify tab, right next to this this icon that looks like a hammer, there's a wall joints tool. It looks like a pencil and a corner condition. This is wall joints. And this provides a user to override the corner connections between the different partitions. And I'm going to try to fix this one. I don't know exactly if you have this particular condition, but if you do, you can follow along with me as well. You may want to revise all the corner conditions and find one that looks odd. In this particular example, I want the diagonal wall to be the primary one over the flat one. And so what you do is under the modify tab, hit the wall tool, wall corner condition, the wall joint condition, and hit the bottom of a wall. You see that preview there, that little square. Again, this is the tool. And then move your mouse in this area until you see that the display of that square. And then mouse click. After you mouse click, the option bar is going to activate. And it will present you with different ways of making that connection. So a butt, a butt connection, what it means, right? You have a wall here, and then you have another wall here. This is a butt connection, but you have two variations. You can make it the way it is on the left side or the one on the right side. These are two variations of butt conditions. There's a primary wall, and then there's a secondary wall. The primary goes on top of the secondary. And so what I want to do is to flip the priority of these corner conditions. So all I need to do is click, I want a butt condition, and then you hit next. And you see how there's a slight change you see right here when you hit next. All it's doing is changing the priority of this butted condition. I'm going to go all around the corners just to double check. This one looks correct. This does too. So I only change it once. And repeating the process again, select the wall. No, go to the modify tab, sorry. Go to the modify tab and then go to the wall joins tool. Hover over a corner condition. Select the type of connection, butt, meter, or square, and then just hit next. And that's going to change the priority of the corner condition. Next, 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 next. And then escape to cancel. Any question here?
I have a question. When I get to the square, I in my configuration, I have an allow join already clicked, so that I actually can't get to butt or next or any of that. So all I can do is I can disallow join, and is that going to allow me to pick a butt version?
That's a good question. So disallow join make a corner condition independent. It breaks the relationship between the two walls. And so I'm going to show you, and I'm going to try to disallow myself here and show you how to fix that. I'm going to here disallow join. And when I do that, you see what happens. It doesn't look good. It, like these walls no longer have automatic connection. The best way to fix this is in the floor plan. I'm going to switch to the floor plan here. Maybe I'll switch to fines to see what's happening. This wall and this other wall no longer connect in the corner because the join is disallowed. So the way to enable it, it's select the wall and look at this little icon here that looks like, I know, it's a join, it's a wall joint. If you click that icon from one wall and then select the other wall and enable it too, and then force the wall in, like drag it in, it will clean it again. So I'm going to do it again. These are two walls with where the end wall is disconnected. The way to fix it is you select it and enable allowing the connection in one wall. Then you go to the other one. Escape, select it. Enable the wall ability to create automatic joins. Now these two walls can connect, but graphically I need to force it. And what I do is I select it, grab the location line grip, and just stretch it enough to create a new wall condition. Let me know if that works, Isabella.
Mine are joined automatically because I did the allow join and I just joined them like miraculously without anything.
Oh, okay. If you find a faster way to do it, that's great. Now I need to go back here and fix it because what I want is this to be the primary wall. So I go to modify walls and then but and there you go. Anybody else have a question? I'm going to extend the discussion of those automatic connections. I'm going to create you don't have to do this. This is just a demo thing. I'm going to create two walls in a corner condition. And I'm going to assign it two different partition types. Okay, so these two walls are very similar in structure and systems. When I go And just for fun, I'm gonna add another piece, another architectural wall. And this one is gonna be a different one. It's gonna be okay, 3 dissimilar walls connected in a corner condition. So when I do this is Revit educated guess on how what the different layers need, how the different layers need to connect based on what? On the priority number. Now this may or may not be the right construction detail. If we want to refine the way in which these walls connect using the join conditions, you can, when I click next, the first example that I show you is very simple. It's just either or, right? But now I have 3 wall conditions, and there's more than 2 solutions to the way in which this connect. And so every time I hit next, Revit is going to give me an option. So I have more than 2. I have Revit start like cycling across. Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want this? Do you want that? And all of those are variation in which the internal layers connect in different conditions. I can change it to meter, but meter is not the way to connect this in construction. Maybe in steel, I don't know, or in some steel conditions. And then if I disallow the join, then these 3 walls become independent and they don't connect at all. So what I think what you, Isabella, did is pick this again and allow join, then hit it again, escape, and what I did is just force the connection again just by dragging in and out. What undo. Again, I don't like, if we think about construction details, I don't think relying in Revit to solve this will create a good detail. Oftentimes what happens is that you will display, if this was a detail, you will display this in course, and then you manually add how the different details are going to work, because there's a lot of pieces that are missing in this view. And so anyway, that was a parenthesis just to talk more about corner conditions. All right. That's it. We still have time here. All right, let's build quickly a floor. Yeah, the floors and the roofs. So switch to level 1, and there is a floor underneath all these structure. When I switch this to wireframe, or when I display this to coarse, to fine, if you display this to fine and wireframe, the image becomes transparent. You can actually see through the elements. And the reason I did this is so that I could look at the image below. And so what I want to do now is to create a concrete wall using the as a template, the intersection of the grids. So I'm going to do this. If you guys want to watch it, me doing it, I'm going to do it first. Then I'm going to delete it, and we can do it together. If you're fast enough, just follow me right now. This is what we're going to do. On the architecture tab, go into floor. This takes me to sketch mode, and these are the ways of creating sketch lines. So I'm going to switch to the 2-line method, and then force Revit to create wall by intersection. And so to do that, just type SI on the fly, and that's only going to pick intersections. And I'm going to pick both the interior. Again, SI is intersection between grids. SI is like snap intersection. SI. And then after I'm done with this, I close the tab and click escape. Make sure that we meet the two rules of sketch mode. Lines have to be continuous and lines cannot overlap. And then click the green checkbox and you're done. All right, let's do it together. I'm gonna do this. Oh, I'm just gonna select it and delete. There you go. All right, so go to architecture and select the floor tool. In the properties window, there is a drop-down list. I want this to be a concrete wall, a concrete floor. So for now, I'm going to pick the 12-inch generic. We can change it later. 12-inch generic. In the draw tools in the upper right side, hit the line tool, the first and second line tool. And then I'm going to use snap intersections. So make sure you type on the fly SI. And I'm going to start with intersection of A and 4. And take into account, there's a floor in the exterior I'm going to build at the same time. So I'm going to go all the way to A and 2. Then I go to B, SI. SI is going to force a snap intersection. And the icon for SI is the cross, that red cross that you see there. SI. And every time, for every corner, I just type SI. On the south side, also mind, there is a concrete pad in the exterior. I'm going to build it in a single sequence. Then SI. And then at the end, you just close click escape to finish placing sketch lines. The floor should look something like that. Again, make sure that you include these exterior paths for the exterior tables.
Cesar, I have a question. If you did not include them, can you edit the line that you already did before, or you have to redraw?
Did you click the green checkbox already?
No.
Okay, so all you need to do, like if this was here, just select that line and stretch it and make it snap to the grid line.
Okay.
It should be easier to do it that way. Or you can delete the segments and add them later. Like I could delete these segments and then do additional lines.
Okay. Thank you.
I have a question. My precision tool is not really working well. So when I zoom in on my on what I drew, the lines are not always straight. Is there a way to automatically fix that?
Yeah, when you create lines, Like I'm creating a line here. If
Yeah.
I want to force this line to be always orthogonal, click the shift tool.
Oh, got it.
And
Thank
it's
you.
always going to be either vertical or horizontal. But the difficulty part is you also want it to snap to the intersection. So to snap to the intersection, you have to type SI. So you have to release the shift, but then type SI again and it will snap.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only way. Now, remember also that when you do a snap intersection, it could pick the intersection of the grids, but if like me, you have this on the fine display, it could also pick the intersection of the interior layers, which is the wrong side. So you may want to like just review your project all around to make sure that it's snapping to the grid, not to the wall. And to do that, maybe I just switch back to hidden line. Change this to coarse so it goes black. And it should be the lines should be aligned with the exterior face of the wall or to the grids. Yeah, precision, important here. Okay, so once you have the boundary created, just click the green checkbox. And the floor is now part of the project. You look at this, here's
Sorry, can you please show again how you got to the sketch section?
Yeah, so I'm in the floor plan level 1, and then I start the floor, just the floor tool, and I start creating lines. Using the sketch tools. And snap to the intersection of the grids.
Sorry, where did you find it? Floor?
Architecture, floor. Architecture floor.
Got it. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much.
The command is not going to work if the wall is the floor is not going to be created if the sketches are not in a continuous loop or if the sketch has a gap. Like here is a gap and I click green checkbox, Revit gets angry. I continue. Or if a line is overlapping, just a tiny overlap here. Click the green checkbox, Revit's angry, doesn't like it. Quit sketching. Yes. This generic floor was 12 inches in thickness. And it's acting as a support for the entire wall. Any question here? Is everybody able to create the wall, the floor?
No, I tried, but since I'm in Spanish, I can't use the SI. This doesn't work.
I don't know what is the snap for Spanish.
No, it's okay. I just need to make it back to English. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you want to, in 10 minutes, we can do it again.
Yeah,
together.
let's try that. Okay.
All right. So finally, let's build the roof. And we're also going to use a roof can be built by walls. We are actually going to use a wall as a roof, because I think in this house, the structure of the wall, it's very similar to the roof. And in fact, when when a roof is created as a wall, the corner conditions are very, very clean. But let's so let's do it. Oh wait, let's fix one more thing. If I switch to level 1, notice that there is this big thick wall right here in the middle. I'm going to switch this to fine. This is something I need to fix before I do the roof. So the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to use this tool called split. The split is like an X-Acto knife that divide a wall into 2 separate sections. And I'm going to split these walls in half. So a split tool is under the modify tab, the far right end, modify tab. And then in the modify tools, you're going to find the split tool. It looks like is this tool here. It looks like a wall with a little double arrow. Split tool. And you can use split tool to divide mostly walls, but you can use it to the split roof or ceilings or system families in general. So when you click on the tool, the cursor turns into this X-Acto knife. And then I'm gonna split this in half. So I'm going to split the first wall, and I'm also going to split the other wall. And you see wherever you click, you're going to see this split line. It doesn't matter where the split line is. Just make sure that this double line is split in half. Click escape to cancel. And then another tool we're going to use very, very often is this one here, which is trim to corner. And for those who come from AutoCAD background, trim equals fillet. And I know in AutoCAD, trim is something different, but trim to corner is a fillet. And you can fillet one segment of a wall at a time, or you can do it multiple times. But we're going to use the trim to corner tool, and we're going to pick the segments of the wall to remain. It's different the way AutoCAD thing. In AutoCAD, I think you pick the segments you want to trim. Here, you're going to pick the walls that you want to keep. So I want to keep this segment of a wall. I want to keep this segment of a wall. And now it creates a corner condition. Then I'm going to trim. I'm going to fillet this with this. And then the remaining walls, I'm going to delete them. That makes sense. I want to repeat if you fall behind. I'm going to do undo here. All right, this is what I have. What you do is to split. So you go to the split command. Split the first wall on the right side. Split the second wall on the left side. Hit escape to cancel the command. Then under the modify tab again, select trim to corner under the modified tools and pick the segments you want to keep. I want to keep this with this, and it creates a nice corner condition. And I want to keep this and that. And then the other walls that are there, I'm just going to select it and delete them. And then in 3D, I have an open space that it's nice. Now I can create the roof by face. You all with me here? Okay, so let's build the roof. And we're going to use exactly the same family as the walls. And the reason to do that is so that the corner conditions between the roof and the wall are super clean, and this looks super modern.
So, sorry to go back. Which one was the Exacto tool?
Under the modify tab, this tool.
Modify.
Under the modify tools,
Uh-huh.
there's an icon that looks like two pieces of wall with a red arrow.
Oh, okay. Got it. Split elements. Thank you.
And then you use the corner, trim to corner.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
Okay, last step, and then we close for today. We're going to create a wall by face. The same way we create a roof, the same way we created the other walls. So go to architectural tab, go to the wall by face. And let me see if I have something here. Well, let's use the same one, exterior wood wall, and then pick the faces of the wall. Now, when we do this, the location line is the finished face exterior. And what that means is that the face of the mass is going to represent the exterior of the roof. Remove these offsets, change it to 0. These are things that Revit always remember. Revit always remember the last thing, last input. And let's associate this to the roof level. And all we need to do is click on the roof.
Hey, Cesar, quick question. When you associate to roof ridge, oh, sorry, I see it, base constraint. Thank you.
Yeah, and this is just for the effect of the scheduling. It's not going to affect the geometry at all. When you do this type of geometry, we want to associate with a level just for scheduling purposes. And so now I have this almost perfectly corner connections, except for these little things here. But we're going to fix that. I think the way to fix that is to, let me try it first. Attach top. Oh, no. I have to mirror the corner conditions. So it's not a great solution, but when I go to the modify tab and I do these corner conditions, instead of but, I do meter. And I'll do that for all the corners conditions. And what that does is that visually and geometrically, the connection between the walls and the roof are going to be super clean, super modern. You're not going to have those little imperfections. There you go.
So could you repeat that whole thing one more time, putting the roof on as a wall?
Yeah.
Just from the top. Thank you.
I'm going to delete some of them. So this is roof by face. No, wall by face. So you go to the modify tab. Sorry, architecture tab, wall. In this drop-down list of the wall options, pick wall by face. And then select the exterior wood wall that we had before. In the instance properties, assign the base constraint to roof ridge. and change the offset to 0. This is not going to impact at all the geometry. And then pick the face. And do the same for all the faces of the roof. And then to create this perfect connections at the corner, remember this is a Finnish, Nordish type of thing, and perfection needs to be perfectly connected in the exterior. What I did is in the ground level, go to the Modify tab, Wall Joints tool. We did this earlier. Wall joints, and pick a wall joint and change it from box to meter. And I did it for every corner conditions, and you're gonna get rid of those geometrical imperfections.
Thank you. I and clicking one of the faces, just putting the roof on, I get this warning that says can't keep wall extended to wall. And the roof itself is orange, and then the wall that it's referring to has this like orange outline that's just like the long extended up, extended down, even though that's not how the wall is visually presenting.
Let's look at it after I finish. Maybe you can share the screen later.
Yeah.
All right, so if the rest of the team follow, we should have this nice geometrical form. The beauty of this is when I create this section, I'm going to go to View tab and Section, and when I open this section, these connections between the wall and the roof looks very nice. They look perfectly presented. I'm going to do another view. Go to View tab, Section. I'm going to cut it from here to here. When you open the section, it's and when I switch to Fine, you see this nice connections between the roof and the walls. And if we're preparing this like for a magazine, this will be the way in which you present this these plans. And so any other question? All right.
So when you draw the section, how do you then see it on section?
Just double click on the arrow,
Oh.
and it will open it. You can also go to the product browser, but that's less intuitive. And then there are things you can do, like improve the graphic display, and we're going to look at that in the when we talk about the rendering. Okay, so go to the 3D view. If this was perfect on your end, we can just save it. File save. I'm gonna make a copy of this on the today's folder. For those who want to retrieve my version on the next class. It'll be on Google Drive. Progress. Today's date. All right, there you go. If you want to grab it on your end, it's ready for you. All right, so I'm going to stop the stream recording, and feel free to disengage. If you want to stay for Q&A, just stick around and you can share your screen.